In this video, you will program a robot to drive until it reaches a dark line using the color sensor, and then store the number of encoder counts it took to reach that line in a variable. To follow along with the video, you will need a light-colored surface with a dark line within reach of your computer. Make sure that the color sensor is mounted face down on the front of the robot. Start a new program. Go to Motors and Sensor Setup, Standard Models, and select the VEX IQ Clawbot. Next, set the color sensor into grayscale mode. Click on the Devices tab, and under Port 3, select Color Sensor, Color Grayscale. Grayscale mode will switch the color sensor to look for the reflectivity of a surface rather than a specific color. Grayscale mode will also turn on a lamp inside of the color sensor to assist with measuring in dark locations. Click OK. Now, we need to create a variable to store our encoder's value into. Above Task Main, type INT, encoder line 1, above the line. This line of code will create a variable with the data type INT, or integer, named encoder line 1. Integer variables can store whole numbers, positive or negative. There are limitations on how big of a number you can store, but since this number is above 2 billion, you don't need to worry about it for now. Now, inside of Task Main, add reset motor encoder, parentheses, left motor, close parentheses. Reset motor encoder will clear any previous values from the specified motor's encoder. In this case, the left motor's encoder. Next, set both motors to move forward at 30% speed. Set motor speed, left motor, 30. And set motor speed, right motor, 30. Don't forget the commas and semicolons. Since we want our robot to move forward until it sees a dark line, we'll use a wait until condition. Add wait until, parentheses, get color grayscale, parentheses, color detector, close parentheses, less than sign, 320, close parentheses. Great. Once the robot detects a value below the threshold value, in our example a value of 320, which indicates a dark line, the robot should come to a stop and store the distance from the motor encoder into the variable. Go ahead and add in 2 more set motor speed commands for each motor, but with the power level set to 0. The last step is to store the distance our robot traveled, as the wheel's encoder count, into a variable. To store the encoder count into a variable, type the following: encoder line 1, 1 equal sign, get motor encoder, parentheses, left motor, close parentheses. Let's break down this last line of code. First, since we want to assign the value of the encoder into a variable, we need to reference which variable we want to use. In this case, it's encoder line 1. Next, since we are not comparing 2 values, but rather assigning one value to another, we used a single equal sign. And last, the value we want to store into the variable, the encoder count of the left motor, is retrieved using the get motor encoder command. Together, this line reads, set the variable encoder line 1 equal to the value from the left motor encoder. Save the program as storeDistance. Download your program, but keep your robot connected to the computer when you run the program. Inside of Robot C, with the Program Debug window open, go to Robot Menu, Debugger Windows, and select Global Variables. This debugger window allows us to see the values of global variables in the program, like the storeDistance and encoder line 1. Place your robot on the light-colored surface, facing the dark line, and then press the Start button on the Program Debug window. The robot moves forward, detects the line, comes to a stop, and stores the value it traveled into the variable listed on the Global Variables debugger window. In this video, you learned how to store the value from the motor encoder into a variable,